fans, Gooners! Welcome to the Positively Uncensored Arsenal podcast of the post Nottingham Forest edition. And as usual, the two old coots. Myself, your host, Shotta and Blackburn George. George, good morning to you.
Good morning.
It's morning, my part of the world. It's even earlier morning than usual for you two because we've gone back to daylight saving time. We almost screwed up this broadcast, guys, but we made it. George, yesterday we eventually crushed Nottingham Forest. I say eventually crushed Nottingham Forest. And there is an eruption of glee, of joy, of optimism that we're challenging for the title. We can review the game, and we will, but especially I want to talk about the optimism that we are real title challengers. George, we dominated Nottingham Forest overall, but the first half belied the eventual victory. And I'm going to share with you, as I usually do, George, and I know you haven't spoken, but the stats that I like to do, this is from the Premier League. And you can see the figures that we're totally dominant. They had 69% possession to their 31%. We dominated them in every stats, George. What are your thoughts on the game and our overall domination between the first and second half?
Well, that's just as simple as that. We dominated the first half and didn't score any. We dominated the second half and scored 4.
You scored 1 in the first half, by the way.
Yeah, when I say any, I mean 1 goal. So the domination was total. And what pleased me was that we didn't fade in the second half.
Mm-hmm.
In fact, if anything, we stepped it up at the beginning of the second half. And that's good because recently we've been fading and coming out poorly in the second half. So we could have scored more in the first half, and we did score more in the second half. Forrest were probably knackered by then because we'd given them a complete run around. And that's how it used to be. We used to, if we couldn't score early doors, we used to wear them down and then take them at the end. We did it yesterday. I don't see any reason to worry about anything. We played well, played just as well in the first half as the second half. You always worry if you're only 1-0 up at half time. You know, something can go wrong. I think that's from 20 years of things going wrong or seeming to go wrong, even though it might only happen once a season. It sticks in the mind that we've seen this before. We've seen this film. We've watched it 1,000 times, but we probably haven't watched it 1,000 times. We've probably only watched it a dozen times, but it sticks in your mind, doesn't it? And
Yes.
You worry that only 1 goal, something bad's going to happen. We'll get a player sent off. They'll score a freaking goal. They'll break away. It's always playing on your mind. It's the life of a football fan, really.
But you know, George, obviously, I don't want to fall for the old canard because for most of those so-called 20 years, we won most of those games. We were always in the top 4, third. In fact, it was more an average of third than an average of 4th. I did the studies.
Yeah, it's true. But what I'm saying is, although those are the facts, that's not the impression. That's not what's in your mind. In your mind's always the ones that got away, the ones where we battered United, absolutely battered them and lost 3-1 at home. You know, those things stick in your mind. It's not the routine wins. They just fade into insignificance because you expect them. But the hurt, the bad ones stick in your mind and you're always expecting the next one of them to come just round the corner.
Well, and of course, George, you can't forget, I mean, you and I spent years battling this. There was always a desire in the media and certain fans to emphasize the negatives. And the more extreme you were, the more the more clicks you got. So, you know, losing at Southampton was the end of the world. Whenever we went down there, you know, or the Leicester winning the league, coming from 15th to first, that sort of thing. But George, speaking of extremes, I see a lot of people now saying that we are now genuine title contenders. I think I'm racing ahead of myself, actually. But that is the theme, that is the mood online, at least, and even in the media. Have you noticed that?
Yeah, understandably so as well. We've been eighth, and fifth, or if you go back a bit further, bloody fifth, sixth, eighth, fifth, and that's like we've been like starving men, and we've got a meal in front of us, and we're going to dig in. Why not? Why not? We're what 10 or 11? How many games in now? 11, is it?
11, I think. I think I could tell you that in a moment if you go ahead.
11 games in, and we're top of the league, 2 points in front of what's possibly the best team the Premier League has ever seen. So I don't think you can tell people to stop being happy.
No, you can't.
And they're enjoying it, and rightly so. And if we fade, or if City pull away, both of which might happen, to some degree at least, so what? At least we'll have had a few months of being top of the league and being excited and happy. You know, why remind people that we're unlikely to win it? You know, let them enjoy it. Let's think that we can win it, and we can win it. If, like you say, if Leicester win it, certainly if the FA decide to give us the Premier League decide to give us a lift like they did with Leicester, we'll be quids then.
The thing is, though, George, and it's 12 games, by the way, 12 games in.
12 games, even better than.
Yes. And George, you know, you and I, it's obvious when you look at our hair, that we've been around a lot. But Nottingham Forest is the worst team in the league. They have only scored 8 goals, 28 goals against. They are bottom of the table. A goal difference of 20, George. They're almost sure to go down unless they have a magical turnaround. Surely we should take that into perspective when we get before getting carried away. I don't want to be a killjoy, but I want to set some perspective here.
Yeah, but we're not getting carried away, are we?
Oh,
we're being
George,
fairly even-handed. But what you're saying is the people who are getting carried away shouldn't get carried away, and I'm saying why not let them get carried away? And yes, you know, you can look at it that way. But what if I was to say Nottingham Forest just beat Liverpool? They're 2 times European champions. They're a club with a rich history, and we beat them 5-0 on the back of them just beating Liverpool. That's how some people want to look at it. Let them look at it that way. I mean, it's ridiculous. They are the worst. They are the worst team in the league. That's a fact. They looked the worst team in the league yesterday.
Well, they sure did.
But we dispatched them with ease. Mm-hmm. The week before, Liverpool lost to the worst team in the league at home. So, as bad as they are, had you let them put the game plan into action, which we didn't, they could have done a lot better than we saw yesterday. You know, yes, they're bad, but we made them look bad as well because we played well. So, you know, yeah, you can look at it. There's every way of looking at things. All I'm saying is, why not let people be optimistic? Don't drag them down because it might not last for long. We've got to eat from the buffet. It's like when I go to the buffet, I take all the sausage on sticks and the cheese and pineapple, all the things I like, and I glutton them down. And that's what we should be doing at the moment. We should be taking everything from the buffet that's available and eating it while the buffet is open, because it might shut shortly. And if we've not rejoiced in this period, we might not get the chance to. And then all we'll be doing is moaning and complaining at the end of the season that we haven't won anything.
So George, I suppose then you will be in the camp of those enjoying this one, George. Let me share this with you. This one here with you. I wonder if you see this. Guys, are you seeing this? Odegaard, yesterday, enjoying stuff. Martin Odegaard made 18 passes in the box against Nottingham Forest. Most by an Arsenal player in a Premier League since December 2020. Willian versus Spurs. By the way, George, Willian is at Fulham. I saw him yesterday. I was like, is he back in the league? And sure he is. But by the way, I didn't include the comments, but when people saw that stat, they on the Twitter, they were like, oh, look at what became of Willian. Your thoughts about Odegaard's performance?
Well, it's strange because I thought he played well. But I was on Twitter and there was people saying, get him off.
Yes, in the first half.
You know, he's doing nothing. It's like, what can you say? I mean, the opinions are so extreme from one to another. I mean, he's a good player and he played well yesterday. He's not fucking Mesut Ozil. He's not Cesc Fabregas. But he's certainly better than most players in most teams. So, yeah, I thought he played well. And people don't seem to understand when they're being critical of him, what his role in the team is. He isn't a traditional number 10. He hasn't got the freedom of Mesut Ozil to float around the place and look for space. He's doing a function for the team. He's controlling the ball in the middle of the park. He sits a little bit deeper than a number 10 you would normally expect the old-fashioned number 10 to play in, or the new number 10s who seem to play as wingers.
Yes.
The creative players and top teams now seem to be forward, forward, wide.
Yes. Gundogan and the other fellow,
even them, you know, but we sort of do that, don't we? Him and Granit Xhaka alternate. It's a very similar setup to City, I think, in that it's party holding and two central midfielders playing in front of them, rather than two central midfielders playing an Odegaard in front. If we were playing the old system of a double pivot, you'd expect a little bit more creativity and goal threat from Odegaard. But in this system, it's shared with Xhaka. So if you're sharing something with somebody, simple mathematics tell you that, you know, you're dividing that in two. You're dividing your expected outcome by two.
Yeah.
So I think it's good. He's doing good. You can't look at I think he gets too much stick for not creating and scoring enough when that's basically not his function in this team.
Well, you know, I share this with you. I share with the audience because that was in that tweet and the thread and the comments that followed. They were not overly complimentary. There are a few people who were, but the point I was making is that he made hay against a new Forest team, and that's what you would expect. And talking about making hay, and I've missed that entirely, is the performance of Reiss Nelson, which I knew I was jumping ahead of myself. But the difference to me in the first half, you know, he came on in the first half, and I was fearing for him because apparently, you know, he hasn't played a lot, some appearances in the Europa League, and I wasn't sure he could play that wide role. But he was coming from wide and ending up in the center. And Georgie ended up with 2 goals, and the first one was decisive in making us 2-0. Your thoughts about Reese Nelson?
Yeah, I thought that first goal was an excellent goal
Mm-hmm.
because he cut in and he thumped it with his wrong foot,
Yes.
and he thumped it with such venom that all the goalkeeper could do was parry it out.
Yes.
It
Yes. I'm
landed
about
in
to
front
reach in
of
my
him.
hand. Yes. Mhm.
It landed in front of him, and he smashed it on with his best foot, unsavable. But what impressed me was the venom he put in his shot with his wrong foot,
Mm-hmm.
and it was great. And then the way he sneaked in for his second goal
Yes.
was beautiful. I mean, he just glided into that space and redirected the ball. Clever finish, good finish, and then he set up Party for his party trick. You know,
Yes. 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 Yes.
a goal that we saw last week, the other week, that took us by surprise because normally it's
Against.
pigeons dying when he shoots.
Yeah. Was it
But
against Spurs? That wasn't that goal against Spurs. The one he bent.
yeah, it
I'm not
was
sure. Yeah,
yeah
but I remember
similar.
it. Yes.
So yeah, I was very pleased for Nelson. Couldn't be happier for Nelson because I've been reading for months how he's a drain on the squad and he shouldn't be anywhere near the team and why is he still here? You know, we'll never do anything with Deadwood like him floating around the first team squad. And I remember not many years ago when he was going to be the next best thing. When he was in a youth team, I think he was captain, and he was the star of that team.
Mm-hmm.
And we had high hopes for him. Arsene Wenger had high hopes for him. He seems to have struggled with injury. I don't know his exact injury.
And then he was sent out on loan twice.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Well, Harry Kane was sent out on loan 6 fucking times.
Yes.
You know what we're saying. He's not good enough because we sent him out on loan. We sent Aaron Ramsey on loan. We sent Jack Wilshere on loan.
Mm-hmm.
I'm really pleased for the lad because he's clearly a talented player. He was. You don't have that talent as a youngster and all of a sudden lose it. You might not be able to put it into action in the senior game as well, but if you don't get the chance, you certainly won't. And I don't think he's had the chance. The only disappointing thing for me is that he hasn't had the starts he could have had in the Europa League. I mean, we didn't play him. We didn't start him last week, did we?
That's what I was told. I don't cover.
We played Saka yet again. Another fucking start for our overworked Saka.
Mm-hmm.
And ignored Nelson. And he should probably have played and probably should have played when we lost the game anyway. So
he's gonna play now against Eindhoven, I'm sure.
Well, you would hope so, wouldn't you? Well, I mean, especially with Saka being injured.
Yes. Yeah, it was pleasant. I was pleasantly surprised. I'm very happy for him because, like I said, he came on and I was like, he doesn't play the Saka role. You know, he's not a winger, although he's been played wide. And it was good to see him end up in goal scoring positions. And his 2 goals pretty much put the game to bed. By the way, George, Jesus had 2 assists in those goals. The second one, the first one was inadvertent, but the second one he set up very well. And speaking of Jesus, he never, or Jesus, I think I should say, my Spanish coming out there, George, is Jesus. I think Gabriel Jesus has been struggling to score, and I was hoping he would score. He toiled, and in the first half he was coming so deep, George. I was worried about that, and then the second half he was much closer to the attacker.
I wouldn't worry as much about him coming deep if he didn't keep losing the ball when he comes deep.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
You know, if he came deep and kept it simple and broke forward with the ball, fair enough. But he comes deep and starts fanning around on the ball and gets dispossessed.
Yes.
I'd like to see him further up. But again, it's hard to be critical when he contributes so much in way of assists and ball carrying. And he does cause havoc. I mean, he loses the ball in midfield a lot, but they surround him, they swarm around him when he gets the ball. And if he gets away, or if he gets the pass away, that's 3 or 4 players out of position for them. So even though it might look bad when he keeps losing possession, if he gets the ball away, it can be advantageous. So I think we shouldn't be overcritical of him because he hasn't scored for a while. I mean, a lot of strikers don't score for a while. And if he was hanging around in the box, he would score more. I mean, obviously, every player, we were getting tap-ins, but you can't criticise him for not being there when, again, it appears that's not his function in the team.
He doesn't.
No.
Well, he has a number 9.
What we're saying is we're going to be critical of him and Arteta because he doesn't quite fit the template that we have in our minds for a striker.
Right, because he wears a number 9 on his back.
Yeah.
We're expecting
he doesn't play like a traditional number 9.
Exactly.
But he's not been asked to play like a traditional number 9. And I think it's unfair to criticise him for not functioning like a traditional number 9 if that's not the job he's tasked to do. Same with Odegaard. It's easy we have these templates in our minds, like left back should overlap and cross balls in, and the game's not like that anymore, and certainly not like that the way that Mikel Arteta has the team set up and Pep Guardiola has the team set up. But we're still criticising them on the basis of how we would set a team up with our very limited knowledge of football. Of course, everybody thinks you've got a great knowledge of football. You only have to go on Twitter to see.
Yes. And
I think there's nearly 9 million followers of Arsenal on Twitter now, and I'm sure they all think they could be managers.
Oh, well, yes, and I would certainly tell fans we don't pretend to be experts and professionals. I mean, we're just fans with a certain point of view, trying to be factual. George, so talking about performances, I have one more. I have 2 slides, but our boy, you mentioned him. Partey scored yesterday, but again, George, I was struck by the overreaction of our fans and audience. The thing I'm doing is putting some content in our podcast. And Up Your Arsenal tweeted that Partey is streets ahead of Fabinho. Partey bench Rodri at Atletico Madrid and is the best DM in the league. George, you must agree with him. Having fun today, aren't with our Up Your Arsenal?
Jesus. No. Look, I'm not swinging at Partey today.
No, we're not.
I'm not having a go at him. He was absolutely in acres of space. Defensive midfield. Defending what? He didn't have to make any defensive midfield plays because there was no attacks. He didn't have to stop any attacks because there were none. And he had acres of space, and his passing was all right. He did okay. But I'm not having any of that nonsense about him being better than Rodri.
You know the reason why I brought this up, George?
Yeah, that said, he's far, far better this year than he was last year or the year before. So he mustn't keep going back to when he was basically crap. I mean, he was shit for the first year. He was mediocre at best for the second year. And now he's okay. And sometimes he's quite good.
Yes.
We mustn't grumble about that, really.
But George, I brought this up because, again, I am concerned about overreacting and getting carried away. But you make a point which I wanted to make, but of course you're my expert. But in the first half, in particular, he was his sole DM, and Georgia was almost nobody around him, And I was I was critiquing him, and I said, but Partey, you have all this time and space, and you're passing sideways rather than a through ball. And then the first thing he did in the second half was the through ball to Reece Nelson. I was like, oh, shut up, shut up. So, you've got to be balanced and don't jump to conclusions. But he had the time of his life. And, that pass back to him, I think came from Reece to score, and the bender. And I said, people are going to get carried away here, but he did well.
Yeah, he did okay. But he was given massive time and space.
Yes.
And anybody is going to profit from that at the top level of football. I mean, he's a good footballer. He's not a bad footballer. No matter, it's how good is he? I think personally, he's quite good at the moment.
Yes,
but
yes.
He is not great. I mean, he still loses the ball and makes wrong decisions. And for me, but what do I know? Let's let them enjoy party just like they're enjoying the title challenge that we're making.
Yes. Well, I've seen people turn on players for less. But anyway, George, so before we go to our usual feature, which is just to analyze the man of the match, I want to tell people if you think that the commentary by me and George is worthwhile, please like and subscribe. We were pulled down to the ground. That's what they say. Brought back to earth. Last week. Before that, we had busted through nearly 600 views, and they were brought back to earth last week. I'm sure that a lot of people like what we do, but we need to get our subscribers up. Remember, don't forget the algorithms at YouTube still work. So that's my.
So before we move on,
yes,
you were asking before we came out about people. Are we in a real title challenge?
Yes.
And I want to give a couple of reasons why I think we could very well be in a real title challenge. First one is that the way football works, that you don't have to be anywhere near as good as Manchester City to finish up with more points than them. Mm-hmm. You just have to keep winning the games that you play. So it doesn't matter that City are much better than us, and they are. I was thinking about it. Our first team would struggle to get any of our first team players into their second 11. However, I said it last week, as long as we keep winning, we still get 3 points, and that's all they can get, no matter how much better they perform than us. And the second thing is nothing to do with Arsenal, but it gives us a good chance of staying with them. I watched them play in Leicester, who are in the bottom three.
Yes.
Have been struggling this season. And they won, and it took a miracle free kick from Kevin De Bruyne to win 1-0. And you looked at Leicester, and Leicester have an attacking manager who's known for his free-flowing football, if anything. And from the word go, they had 10 players camped in their own half and made no attempt to attack Manchester City at home.
Mm-hmm.
Now, those tactics, horrible as they are to watch, are the best way of getting points off a team like Manchester City. And if someone like Brendan Rodgers is going to be prepared at home to accept 70 or 80% possession against his team in the hope that they can get a 0-0 or maybe a breakaway goal, City are going to struggle because occasionally those tactics will work.
Yes.
Now, let's say Rodgers had managed to get the 0-0 that other than that ridiculous De Bruyne free kick got Manchester City would have got. That would have put us another 2 points in front of Manchester City.
Yeah. Good point, George.
And they're going to get that every single week. And what I'm saying is, even good teams will set up not to try and beat Manchester City, but to get a 0-0. And occasionally they might succeed. They might get the 0-0, or they might get a fluke result with one breakaway goal, because it gets to 70 or 80 minutes and Manchester City are pushing. Everybody's in the opponent's half, and we'll get a breakaway. And like, I remember them playing like that. It was at Newcastle. No, it might have been Wolves. Amanda, what's his name? Torres. He broke away and got
George, I didn't see that game. I don't recall.
This was a couple of seasons ago.
Okay.
You'll get them playing somebody like Sam Maximan will break away.
Yes. I remember.
And score a goal against them.
Mm-hmm. He's likely to do that.
We have a chance that, because they're so much better than us, good teams will approach their games looking to get a draw. And occasionally they will.
Yes.
And that gives us a good chance of keeping up with them, because they're not set. When we play Leicester, they won't set up like that against us. They won't have.
They'll be more attacking.
They'll be much more attacking. We'll have a better chance of beating them than Manchester City. No, obviously, we've not got a better chance. Manchester City is a better team, and they've got a better chance because they're a better team. But do you understand what I'm saying?
Yes, I get it.
The way we are treated compared to how Manchester City are treated, the way the teams set up against them, and also a lot of teams, even when they play City, it's basically a write-off.
Right. So they're free. They're freer.
A free hit.
Yes, and they're mentally freer to play.
And they're mentally freer to play because they're not expected to win. And even if they get beat 4 or 5, doesn't matter. It's Manchester City.
Yes.
So the attitude that other teams have towards Manchester City, that they'll accept this, it's a do or die, backs to the wall situation, and that gives us a chance of picking up points compared to them, because they're getting treated in they're making it more difficult for them to win, to score goals, than us. The problem is they're so much better than us.
George, this is an interesting segue to the poll that I want people that's going to be posted when we post this YouTube podcast. And I have a poll here. It better be here. I have this poll. Where's the poll? Right. The poll is on the title challenge, George. And again, audience, this is a way of getting your interaction. Take a look at this poll. George just spoke about the chances of us winning the league. Are you convinced Arsenal is a genuine title contender? And the choices I have is make very confident, quietly confident, wavering, or not at all. Where are you, George?
Up and down like a fiddler's elbow.
You're wavering on like a leaf.
I'm wavering. I mean, realistically, I look at Manchester City's squad and I look at ours and I think, no fucking way.
That's right.
No way. It's just not on.
Yes.
We're not going to do it. It's like, in horse racing terms, we're a Group 2 team and they're a Group 1, and we're not going to beat them in a fair race. But football isn't fair.
Yes.
It's never been fair. And for the reasons I gave 5 minutes ago,
yes,
and the fact that after 12 games, we're at 2 points ahead of them, Yes, we have a chance.
Yes.
It's how big that chance is. Are we contenders? In as much as Deontay Wilder was a contender to beat
To get the heavyweight title.
to beat the Gypsy King.
Yeah.
You think no, it can happen, but it doesn't happen. But I don't think it will happen. But I think we've got a chance.
Well, George, we have several
The
followers.
longer it goes, the more chance we have.
Yes. Well, Positively Uncensored Arsenal followers, and whether you're on Twitter or on YouTube or anywhere, we are very interested in your vote. George said we are not going to. George urges that I not pour cold water on our enthusiasm and optimism, but I'd really like to get your considered vote, and we'll definitely publish the results. George, we're not. I think this we have gone on for 36 minutes. Time to call it a day, but it's been good talking to you, George. It's good to win 5-0. First time since Wenger left that we did 5-0. People, we used to do that maybe thump at least 2 teams every season. But now we got Forrest, and the title talk has me.
Let's see how we do against Chelsea this week.
Right, that would be a good test. All right, George. Sorry.
And don't forget, they lost.
Yeah, they lost. To Brighton. They lost to Brighton.
Yeah, they'll be a bit bruised, and the confidence will have been hit a little bit.
Yes.
So things are good on that front. Once again, we're catching them just at the right time. I mean, he hadn't lost a game, Potter, until Brighton. So that's all good as well.
Right. Well, George, audience, like and subscribe. Remember to participate in the poll. Let's get your point of view.
And comment.
Thank you, George. It was good.
See you later.
Bye, my friend.